Hello again and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is BGFH and we're gonna do a little something different here today. Um, as you can tell, I've got a little bit of Minecraft going in the background here. I'm actually standing in my little rooftop garden here back at my original castle from one of my first videos on the channel. And I'm just gonna kind of walk around and maybe putz around on the server just for something to watch, but what I wanted to do today is I wanted to just try a little bit of a, informal thoughts and impressions on all of the craziness that has gone on in the gaming industry, I would say over the past week or so, and especially yesterday during the press conference day at E3 2013. So, like I said, and there's been all kinds of crazy stuff going on, not just in gaming. WWDC World Apple's developer conference was also yesterday. So there were press conferences galore yesterday, and there is some crazy stuff that happened, and I haven't really been able to follow all of it super deeply because I've been at work all day. Yesterday and today, I've been able to kind of peek in on it from time to time here, but I'm not sure why my frame rate is surprisingly not very good. Hopefully that irons out as we go here. But I'm just gonna, nothing, nowhere in particular here. I'm just gonna kind of walk around while I'm blabbing here. But essentially, like I said, I just kind of wanted to give you some of my rough thoughts so far on the conference and, where gaming is going in the future with the new consoles and current consoles and everything like that. Because, like I said, it's been pretty crazy. And it all started late last week. Microsoft decided that they were going to, after their press event that they did in the end of May, where they showed the console and they kind of introduced all this craziness about all their DRM stuff. They were really vague. They would say, "Well, yeah, there's going to be some licensing stuff. We're not going to give a straight answer on used games. We're going to give conflicting reports. Can you do used games? Can you trade them in? Just all of this kind of digital rights stuff, even for physical copies of games." And so it was really vague. Well, last week, like I said, I think it was Thursday or Friday, Microsoft released a 3-page document that talked all about their sort of process. There are still definitely some questions. There's still some things that are a little vague and a little bit of depending on how you interpret it, it could go a couple of different ways. But essentially, yes, they are cracking down on, they're definitely going to be limiting your rights a little bit more, especially with physical copies, because one of the things that they had said is that, physical games, you're not even going to be able to, you go buy a disc in the store, you're not going to be able to play a game from the disc. Every game is going to have to be installed to the hard drive. So, okay. Well, then they go into this whole business about I'm not even going to try to go and explain it all because, like I said, it's just super crazy. But the gists that I got out of it were that if you have a bunch of people playing on your system, It seems like if you own the game and it's tied to your account and you're playing that on your system, not your friends or neighbors or whatever, family members, if you're playing it on your system, you're good to go. Other people should be able to play your games without trouble. Where it gets a little trickier is then they introduce this thing about families. So you can have, it's like 10 people in your quote unquote family. And apparently, when you own something, you can actually share your library of games with them, but only one person can play a game at a time. So let's say I lived in a big household and I played the games and I had, a brother and a sister, and my brother and I were playing something, or my sister and I were playing something. Well, we could do that theoretically, but but then as we were playing, if my sister wanted to play something, she wouldn't be able to do that, is the way I interpret it. Actually, if you go to Giant Bomb, they did kind of a funny but yet pretty interesting interpretation, or walking through the features. They did a video on it late last week that sort of tried to interpret those types of things on the Microsoft's announcement there late last week. As far as like used games and trading it in, I guess you'll be able to, they're not going to charge for it, but basically they're leaving it up to specific authorized retailers that, okay, well, we'll let you trade in the games and stuff. So I'm sure like GameStop and stores like that will be able to be some kind of publishing or some kind of trade-in agreement with Microsoft for that. And then you've got, as far as like borrowing a game to somebody or lending a game to somebody, they're just said straight up, well, that's not going to be available at launch. Instead, what we're going to do is you can gift a game to a friend. So if I buy it, I decide, I'm done with it, I'm just really not going to play this anymore. I can gift it to a friend, but it can only be gifted once, and then they cannot re-gift it to somebody else or give it back to me. So I can't, like, let's say with, I believe it's the Kindle books, you can actually, if you have the license for a Kindle book, you can basically lend it out to somebody, your authorization disappears, and then when that time expires or they, give it back to you, then they no longer have the license for it. And, then you have your full license back to it again. I still like this arena here. I really, there's a couple things. I kind of would like to add more dimension to that roof now that I have these upside down stairs. I might do that. And I still have yet to finish the under part of this. When I came up and showed you guys this earlier, that's one of my projects I still have yet to really do. But back to this whole E3 nonsense. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of just people are not happy with Microsoft right now. I have pretty mixed feelings. I mean, I'm definitely not a fan of the approach that they're going as far as the console stuff. I mean, digitally, like Xbox Live Arcade, PSN games, and even some of the digital Nintendo stuff, it's been that way, for this generation. You buy a game, you can't resell it to anybody, you can't do anything with it, but people have this expectation when you have a physical copy of a game that, I go buy the disc, I don't just own the license, I own the disc. If I choose to play it, sell it, trade it, use it as a coaster, cut it into, a throwing star shape or whatever, I have the right to do that. But Microsoft is really going more toward, you don't Yeah, we're using the disc as a delivery medium for, if your internet isn't all that fast or whatnot, but essentially that really doesn't even matter anymore to them. It's basically you own, we're granting you the license to play the data that's on this disk and nothing more. So we start at now we're actually to the press conferences. Monday. I'm actually recording this Tuesday evening. And so we started off with Microsoft had their press conference late Monday morning. And I did catch most of it. I kind of caught some of it during my lunch break. And, a little bit after work, I kind of popped in and looked at a few things. And as far as the games went, I mean, they did actually show a lot of games, which is good. Actually, I didn't go. Let me go back over there. Check that out again. They did show some games, and some of them actually looked pretty cool. So they did have a trailer for a new Halo game. Obviously, they're going to have Halo. I mean, come on, that's Microsoft's cash cow. They're not gonna not make another Halo game, even if it is 343 Studios and not Bungie. They started out with a Metal Gear trailer, which was kind of crazy, and I don't really know what's going on there. Apparently, and this is something I haven't really researched too much yet, but apparently there are 2 Metal Gear games. So there's like this, I'm blanking actually right now too. I can't remember the names of them, but there are apparently 2 that are going to tie together somehow, is what I've heard recently. So however that's going to work. Like I said, they had Halo, they had Forza, but we knew about Forza already. Surprisingly, or maybe not so unsurprisingly, they did actually show Killer Instinct. That did make a comeback. I know a lot of people have been rumoring that for quite a while now. And yes, it finally happened, and I'm kind of glad because, I mean, I do like Killer Instinct. I did own the N64 version and played a little bit of the Super Nintendo one. But, come on, load in, there we go. It's a cool game. I mean, fighting games in general, I like them, but I'm just terrible at them, so it's not going to be a game that, I'll want to play it, but it's not going to be one I'm probably going to be hugely drawn to because, like I said, fighting games in general, I'm pretty terrible. But it did look pretty cool. The stage demo, or kind of faked stage demo, was pretty cheesy and kind of hard to watch, but, the footage looked good. I mean, it looked about what I expected, and I'm kind of glad that Rare is getting to actually do some more with real games again. I mean, man, why this is just not loading in very well at all. Sorry about that, guys, but like I said, we're just cruising around. But I'm glad to see Rare is actually getting to make real games and not just, here's this little Connect title, or here is a, we're going to work on the Avatar system or whatever, because granted, I don't know how many of the actual people are still there from, like, the N64 days, but Rare made some really great stuff back in the day, I mean, they did the Killer Instinct, they did GoldenEye, obviously, Perfect Dark, Jet Force Gemini was pretty cool, God, they had a few other ones that I just went blank on, but I'm glad to see they're getting to actually do a real game again. I know a lot of people like Viva Pinata and things like that too, but I never really got into that as much. They showed Titanfall, which is a first-person shooter that looks actually pretty cool, and then from what it sounds like, it's going to be coming to PC and the Xbox One, which is cool because if it does, I may very well end up just getting it on the PC. And that's kind of going to be the general trend that I think you'll hear me mention quite a bit during the rest of this video and kind of in the near future here, is that, there's going to be some console exclusives for sure. But even some of the console exclusives, like one other game that they showed off, which actually looked kind of interesting, is going to be covering, I'm not sure when I'm going to upload it, but I did record something for Dead Rising 2. And I'll put that on the channel here at some point in the near future. But Dead Rising 3 was announced, and it definitely looks like it kind of had more of a gritty, realistic, for lack of a better word. I don't know. It just had a kind of a darker tone to it, but it actually looked pretty good. It actually looked pretty cool. And since, especially with starting at Dead Rising 2, that is coming to the PC. So, while it might not make it to Sony, I'm hoping that they'll at least continue the trend of, well, let's bring it out on Windows as well. Oh, what else did Microsoft have? I mean, they really did do a pretty decent job about covering games. A lot of their stuff was kind of things we've already known about to some degree, or kind of expected. I didn't really have too many surprises. They focused on some indie games. They will be having not a 360, that's already out. A Xbox One version of Minecraft and some other indie games. So, that's good. Oh man, I know I'm missing a bunch of other ones. Rise is this kind of medieval kind of battle game. I think people originally thought it was just going to be a Kinect game at one point, but apparently that has changed, or it never was, or like I said, it's changed, and so now it's actually a controller-based game with some Kinect functionality, I believe. But that actually looked pretty cool. Again, I don't know if that'll just be an exclusive to the new Xbox, or if a PC version will come to that. So that stuff, that's one of the things that I'm majorly curious about, not just with Microsoft, but both Sony and Microsoft, is how much of this stuff, since it's not, necessarily exclusive, how much is actually going to be, come to the PC, even if it is console exclusive. I guess I'll come back to Microsoft if I think of any major games that I can't remember at the moment. Like I said, I will do a better write-up, an overall E3 thoughts and impressions, I'll do one for sure on the blog, and I will maybe put another video, but I may leave it just to the blog for a more in-depth look where I can actually, write all the names down and maybe link to some other videos and things like that, or give a little bit more detailed impressions or what have you. But this is just going off the top of my head, what really stood out to me. So they also have the Ubisoft and the EA press conferences in between Sony and Microsoft, or Microsoft and Sony. And I really didn't pay attention to these as much. When I did get home from work, I did kind of pop in and I saw a little bit of the end of the EA conference. When I came in, they were talking about a UFC game, which, could be cool. I haven't really played too many of those. I played an early UFC game on the Dreamcast, one of their first ones, which I had fun with. I rented one on the 360, and I thought it was pretty fun, but kind of complicated, and I was not very good at it. But, that could be fun, could be interesting to see. So that may be worth checking out at some point. The one thing that, they showed Battlefield 4, which I like the idea of the Battlefield games. I really do. I played Battlefield 1942. I think I tried the demo of one or multiple of the later ones, but while I like the idea, again, it's just one of those games that I think I have to devote a lot more time to it before I really get into it, or before I really could get good enough to where I would really be into it more. So it did look pretty cool. So if you are into Battlefield, wide open, just kind of, vehicles and shooting and, just really crazy kind of stuff, it's probably going to be a pretty good game. They showed it at Microsoft. I think they showed it a little bit at maybe all three, the EA, Microsoft, and I don't remember, I think it might have briefly appeared at Sony as well. But the thing that I did kind of like, that I saw at the end of EA, was a sequel to Mirror's Edge. They did finally announce Mirror's Edge 2. I know people have been wanting it for a while, and there's been talk of like, well, it's in the works, and then it got canceled, or we're putting it on hold, and maybe it's in development, maybe it isn't, yada yada. Don't really know, but yeah, they finally came clean and showed us a trailer, and it looks pretty good. I am pretty interested in seeing how that turns out. I do hope that they find a way around either making the gunplay a lot better, but I kind of hope they can creatively find a way to just, she can grab a gun and dismantle it like she did in the first game, but I'm hoping that they do something where you don't have to use a gun. You disarm them, maybe you punch them, knock them out, and you go. Don't make it where, I'm going to have to fight 5 guys, and the only way I can get around them is to start shooting. So, I like to see other creative options beyond that. So I hope they do kind of figure out a way around that. I may cover the first Mirror's Edge on the channel at some point too. I have never finished the first game. It's a game I really like, but I'm not really very good at it. One of the things I really like about Mirror's Edge is the art style. It's got this nice cel-shaded look, and it immediately draws your attention because, especially in most modern games, it's brown and gray and maybe some green, but brown and gray and just all that constantly. And Mirror's Edge is just bright red, bright blue, greens. It's a super colorful and really nice looking game, both on the 360 and the PC. I've got the Steam version. And it looks really good. Really, really liking it. So yeah, that's really all I caught at EA. Ubisoft, I thought about watching, but I kind of got distracted and was doing something else, and I ended up kind of taking a little nap, so I really didn't get to check that out live. I did kind of check out what they were doing. They do have the new Assassin's Creed game, which I've played some of the first one, and I like the idea, I like the traversal stuff, but I just couldn't get into it. I know I've heard Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood are really good, and then it tapers off for a little while. And then this new one's supposed to be like about pirates and things like that. So I did see some more footage about at the Sony conference when I was watching that, and I can talk about that in a little bit. But, like I said, I'm so far behind on the Assassin's Creed thing. It's like, well, yeah, it looks cool, but probably not going to be one of the major ones that I'll really look into. What else did Ubisoft have? Splinter Cell, they're coming out with a new one of those on current generation consoles, and it actually looks pretty good. I'll probably, again, pick that up on PC when it comes out. Looking forward to that. They did feature an open world. I can't remember what it's called. It's some open world kind of Tom Clancy game that could theoretically be cool. I'm kind of curious to see what becomes of that and how that turns out. They had another game. Like I said, I'm not just going off the top of my head here, kind of from what I remember. but they had another game. I think it's called the Division, and that looks to be some other kind of action game. Not sure if it's open world, but it looked intriguing. So I'll definitely kind of look more into that before E3, the full show, is over. So I really didn't get a whole lot out of Ubisoft. I know they're making another Just Dance. I think that's them. And I could really care less about that. So, yeah, whatever. Oh, God, one of the things that I did not mention, and I'm really stupid, remember I said I would pop back to Microsoft. Well, yes, the one thing I did not talk about for the Microsoft conference is the price. They did, surprisingly, announce a price, and it is kind of high. The Xbox One is going to come out in November, and it's going to be released for a price of $499, basically $500. It will include the Kinect in every one, so they'll have the Kinect to work off of, and they won't have a split audience there of, well, some people do have Kinect, some don't, yada yada. But man, combining it with, that's a pretty high price. That's like early PS3 pricing, and a lot of people weren't particularly thrilled about that. So you combine a high price with all of the bad press that Microsoft has been getting about all their DRM and all their used and shared games shenanigans, and like I said, they've just had a real slew of bad press over the last month, and I don't think announcing the price at E3 really helped. I mean, maybe it's good to get it out of the way and just, rip off the Band-Aid all at once and just go, there you go, it's all out there. It's going to sting, but there you go. But yeah, boy, Microsoft would really have to. I mean, I like Halo, but it's not going to do it for me as far as like, okay, there's a Halo game, I have to get the system. I like the first couple, but I've kind of lost a little interest over the last few games. And there's not really yet a one game that says, okay, I have to have this system. A lot of people, Killer Instinct might be that game. Not for me. I think if Shenmue 3 maybe would be just came out of nowhere, and if they announced that, that would be a really tough one. I would actually have to stop and think about it. Would I get it? Man. Shenmue 3, I guess it really I guess it would depend on how it really looked, and if it looked like it played better, and if it looked, just really good. I may have to consider it. Otherwise, I might just YouTube Let's Play it. You never know. Just watch somebody else's Let's Play. Because, like I said, a lot of this craziness that they're trying to pull off with their, DRM nonsense and their used games and all that, I'm just not a big fan of that. And I really want to see how all that pans out. And I have a hard enough time keeping up with all the games that I have, and paying $500 for another system. I don't think I really need that at the moment. So yeah, I mean, getting back to later in the day, they had the Ubisoft conference, and like I said, I didn't pay as much attention to that. Did kind of find out at least read what was announced, and it was they looked like they had some pretty good stuff, and I would hazard a guess to say that a lot of that is probably going to come to PC. They will probably have, I know they're going to have like certain little exclusives, like, oh, we're going to get this level, or this costume is exclusive to the PS4 or the Xbox One. So there's going to be probably, I'm sure, some of that, and they already did say some of that both for EA and Ubisoft and other third parties, but for the most part, I guess I can live with that. That's just the way things are going to be now. So then we get to Sony. And it's like I said, especially after Microsoft's whole fiasco. Get out of the... Oh man, I'm stuck in this... Alright, you know what? There we go. We're going to cheat. There we go. Get out of the water there. You know, after all Microsoft's shenanigans, and like I said, they did show some games, but I just still not super sold on the Xbox One yet. Sony comes along, and I did watch that conference live. And they started by, you know, they talked about the PS3 and some of the games that were coming out for it. The Last of Us is coming out on Friday this week, which I cannot wait for. Like I said, that was when I wrote one of my first blog posts. I said, well, you know what? The Last of Us and enough of their exclusives and compilation discs, that got me to buy a PS3. There are just some of those games that are definitely system sellers. You know, you got games like Uncharted and The Last of Us and a few others that just, yep, okay, there's enough there. I gotta have the system. Beyond Two Souls, that was one that they teased last year, and they showed a little bit more of it, and now I'm actually more intrigued about that as well. A couple other games I can't remember the names of, but they looked alright, but I think Beyond Two Souls and The Last of Us, you know, I've got my pre-ordered from The Last of Us. I got that already pre-ordered from Amazon, and it should be here on Friday. Yeah. But, so definitely looking forward to that. After that, they did come up and they went and showed they actually did show the system, showed what it was going to be like, showed what it looked like, and it looks smaller than the Xbox One. Not a bad look for it. I actually didn't mind it at all. Thought it looked pretty good. And at that point, we're like, okay, well, that's good. Now, how are you going to, are you going to follow Microsoft's lead? Are you going to do your own thing? Yada, yada. Well, we'll get to that a little bit shortly. So then I think they showed a couple of games, but then they did stop for a little while. That's what it was. They showed the machine, and then they got somebody up there and they talked a little bit about that. There was about maybe a 20-minute period where it was pretty boring because they did touch on some of their TV stuff and their, streaming movies and music, and you've got Sony Entertainment and Sony Pictures, so you're going to have all of that kind of stuff available, which is great. It's a given. I'm fine with that. But I think they really stretched that out a little bit. They could have just said, all the stuff that you expect to have, all the stuff that's already on the PS3, you're going to have it on the PS4. Boom, done. Let's get this show on the road and show more games. Actually, I should go look at the lava ball again. I like that. So they got that out of the way. I'm like, oh man, you were going so strong, and now you kind of lost me for a little bit. You kind of, I was kind of bored. Well, after that, then they went back in and they started showing some games. Now again, a lot of these weren't necessarily exclusives, but they did announce some exclusive, like I said, different exclusive content for some of these games. They did do a stage demo of Watch Dogs, which does look pretty sweet, I must admit. I do know that's coming to all the other consoles and PC as well, so I may look into that again as a PC game. But Watch Dogs looked pretty awesome. They did show an Assassin's Creed, a longer demo of that, and again, the pirate thing did look pretty cool. You had the regular on-foot assassin stuff, but then you also had your manning the boat and doing all that kind of stuff, and that actually looked pretty cool. But like I said, I'm so far behind on the Assassin's Creed games that I'm not sure if I'll really get that far. Then they went through and they did talk a lot, or they did do a little bit on indie games. They did, show a reel from a bunch of different indie games that are going to be coming out for it. And again, a lot of those are either already available or going to be available on the PC. Like there's one, Don't Starve. That's on PC already. There's a lot of indie developers. They kind of had little crazy names, so I can't remember the names of all the developers, but they had some pretty creative names both for the development company and the games themselves. But one that I did kind of like was they had Supergiant Games came up on the stage, and they're the creators of a little game called Bastion, which I really should cover on my channel at some point. Bastion was a game that was released originally on the 360 and then did come to PC, and really neat kind of it's an kind of an isometric overhead type of game, but their unique thing with that was this whole narrator while you play, and just a really cool stylized game and actually fun to play. And maybe I should cover that eventually here too. But their new, I think it's called Transistor is the name of their new game, and that actually looked kind of neat. So looking forward to seeing that, and hopefully again it comes to PS4 and maybe it'll come to PC. Few other games that were there that were indie. Don't remember too many specifics. One game that I did like that they did show was Second Son, which I believe is an Infamous sequel or spin-off or something. And they did show a little bit longer of a trailer, a little bit more story and kind of what was going on with that. And that actually did look pretty interesting. It looked like it really played well. The story was kind of interesting. I really need to play the Infamous games more. I did start the first one, but I haven't got that far into it yet on the PS3. So, that could be one to look forward to on the PS4. God, what else? Bungie showed their new game, Destiny, which actually looked quite cool. Again, that's going to come to Xbox and PS4, and I believe the PC, so, we'll see what happens there, but that may be another PC thing for me. But what they showed actually looked pretty good. It ran at a nice clip. The graphics were really nice. I like their kind of, you kill things and you get loot kind of a deal. But, this whole combination, one of the themes, another theme that they had going on through all these conferences was that they're trying to kind of bridge the gap more between single player, co-op, and, traditional online multiplayer. So, there'll be games where, you're playing by yourself, and then, you might team up with somebody, but, then you're gonna fight against some computer AI or something, but then, you get to this section, and maybe you will find another group of people playing on another side, and then you'll actually do some PvP stuff. So, it could be kind of interesting to see how they bridge all that kind of stuff together. But I think Bungie's game, Destiny, shows some pretty good promise as far as that kind of stuff goes, some pretty good potential as far as that stuff goes. I'm quite interested to see how that stuff turns out. And where they really, I'm trying to think if there's any other major games that they talked about or showed. Those are the major ones that I can think of. So it was winding down, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. They showed the console. They did show quite a few games. I don't know as if they have as many first and third party exclusives as Microsoft goes. They definitely have some good games, and they're getting some good incentives, and they're doing a lot more with I think they're doing a better job, at least it's seemingly a better job of supporting smaller and indie developers. You know, there's basically self-publishing. You don't have to go through a bunch of hoops to publish a game or to get a game on Sony's new system, the PS4. They did talk about some remote play stuff, and they did talk about the Vita, which I almost forgot about. But the Vita, they didn't really talk too much about new games that were coming out for it, but I do like some of what they're doing, even with the PS3 right now, where you buy the PS3 game and then you get the Vita game for free, or you can do this cross-play stuff. You'll get a variant of the game, or maybe they're different games, but you'll get the PS3 game and then you'll get the Vita game at no extra cost or whatever. But they're also building in the PS4. They're building in some stuff so that hopefully the Vita is going to be implemented more or integrated more into the whole PlayStation infrastructure. Kind of how what Nintendo was trying to do with the GBA and the GameCube, or the Wii and the DS back in the day here. So we'll see what becomes of that. There are getting to be a fair number of kind of interesting games on the Vita, and I was sort of hoping that they would announce a price drop for the Vita, but really they really didn't do that from what I know of for now. So I'm sort of hoping for like either a really nice sale or a price drop, and you never know. I may consider getting a Vita at some point. Yeah, you never know. Then I can check out some older PSP games I missed and all that kind of business as well. But they did talk a little bit about, both companies did talk a little bit about their kind of streaming and sharing plans. So Microsoft is partnering up with Twitch TV, that service, and Sony is going to be partnering up with Ustream. So I have not used either one myself yet. If I do get some more followers and people want me to do some of that kind of stuff, I may look into something like that for doing live streams of games or content or whatever. But it does sound like, I do definitely want more information on how that's going to work. It sounds like both consoles will be able to do streaming, but as far as actually just recording video clips straight up and uploading them, that is what I want to know more about is, okay, you can do a video clip. How long can these video clips be? Are they like, you can only do like a highlight of, let's say, 30 seconds or 2 minutes, of a match? Or can I record a 15-minute? Can I record a half-hour video of gameplay at a time and upload it to YouTube or something like that? So if I could do that and not have to go through like a media capture device and try to run it through my PC, that would be fantastic. I would love that ability. Right here, just a little quick break here. Right here we've got, this is another building I'm working on. I kind of walked over to my little tower city here. And this is my totally unfinished hospital here that I've started to work on. Nowhere near done yet. I've kind of got the framework done, but haven't worked on it a whole lot lately. I've got a lot of the interior to do, and even a little bit of the interior floor plan to go. I can kind of walk through at least a little bit of it to give you an idea. But so yeah, that is one aspect of the consoles that I really, really hope that they get right, because like I said, if you can record stuff, you're going to have hard drive space on it anyway. Both of them are going to have like a 500 gigabyte hard drive, and you're going to be able to add more media to it externally as you go. So, just convert, compile and dump the movies out onto an external drive and then upload them to YouTube. Okay, great. That would be fantastic if they let me do that. and then it would be much easier for me to actually upload console content to the channel. I would absolutely love that, as would hundreds of thousands of other people. So hopefully, if not this week, hopefully soon they kind of talk more about that sort of stuff. So like I said, this is far from finished, but this is just gives you an idea of sort of the floor plan of sort of what I'm starting to go for here. And I'll explain that probably in a future tour video when I actually do have it finished, but just give you a quick glimpse. So that's an aspect that I definitely want to learn more about from both consoles, but especially Sony, since I'm kind of favoring them more right now. So after all the games and all that kind of stuff, those are the most of the games that I can actually think of. And then after all the game announcements and stuff, that's where things started getting crazy, because you think, okay, they're going to wrap up. They did show the system, they showed the games. Well, Microsoft already announced a high price for their system. Maybe they'll just, if they were going to match that price, they'll kind of wait on it a little bit and just, let people sink in with the information they've gotten so far. So the first guy walks out again, and he's like, okay, well, yeah, by the way, we're gonna throw a whole bunch of stuff at you at once here. So they didn't give a specific date, but the PS4 is going to be coming out this fall, likely November, maybe late October, but I would hazard a guess to say probably November. But the PS4 is going to launch for $399 or $400. So instantly $100 cheaper than the Xbox One, $100 cheaper. It will not come with the new Move camera and the Move wand or controller, whatever you want to call them. They're not including that, I guess, to cut down. But myself and probably most other core gamers really, really don't care, because that's another thing that really got some bad press from Microsoft is, we have this always-on Connect, and we don't want it always watching us. We don't want to have to do, necessarily voice and motion controls just to, interact with our system. What's wrong with a regular old controller? Yada, yada. Privacy, all that kind of stuff, which, again, I sort of have mixed feelings on, which I can maybe get into at another point, but I don't want to drag this on too long going deep into that. But no camera and Move controller, but you get the system, you get a 500 gigabyte hard drive, you get your controller, boom, okay, you're good. Then they just really started, they were like, well, we're really going to stick it to Microsoft. So they come out and say, and by the way, we're going to have no restrictions. What you're doing on PS3 right now is going to work on the PS4. You are not going to have to worry about weird DRM. You don't have to connect your system to the internet every 24 hours. If you're a single player gamer and you like to play single player games, or if something happens and whatever, you don't have internet for a day or 3 or a week, fine, who cares? You can go for it. And the crowd just went nuts. I mean, it was actually really funny. I mean, some of that people complain is staged. They put actual people in there to cheer, so it sounds like it's really good. But you could tell that was actually a real reaction. That people just went completely bananas for that. They just went crazy. It just, the applause went on forever, and it was just kind of funny to hear that. So then they keep going, and they're like, used games? Yeah, you got a game on disc? Just give it to your friend. You can trade it in. You can do whatever you want with it. Whatever you're doing on the PS3 right now, yeah, you can do that again. Do it on the PS4. Great. So again, the crowd just goes nuts and continues. So they go for that. what else? I mean, like I said, they just all of the things that Microsoft was doing that, drove people crazy. This always online and checking with the server all the time, and DRM restrictions, not being able to trade or borrow to friends and things like that. All of that stuff, they just went out and said, oh yeah, well guess what? No, we're not doing any of that. Have fun, guys. And, I checked on Twitter. It was getting kind of late by then, so I kind of just went to bed after that. But this morning I quick popped onto Twitter and just started reading people's responses. And it was pretty funny. People are just going crazy. There's like, oh, well, yeah, Microsoft, yeah, they just, they told Sony, and people were just going crazy and making fun of Microsoft and, really liking what Sony had to say. And then Sony apparently made this other video available. I don't know when they when they posted it, but I saw somebody tweeted it. And then I saw it a few other different places where they apparently some kind of mocking instructional video where they said how to trade games on PS3 or PS4 or something like that. And it does this little announcement. They go, this is how to trade a game on a PS4. And it just flashes to this thing. It says step 1. And they got these two guys standing there. The guy has a disc or box game in his hand. Just hands it over to the other guy. Here you go. The other guy, thanks. And then it just goes to the the PS4, the Sony, woo, their little sound effect, and it just ended there. But I got a chuckle out of that. It's just step 1. Here you go. They were definitely going after Microsoft. They're basically, like I said, they're just basically telling Microsoft, hey guys, F you, we're coming back. So that was pretty interesting. Like I said, I'm still kind of probably leaning more on the PC side of things just because I don't really have to deal with that as much. But Sony really did, they showed a lot of good things that they needed to do. They saw what Microsoft did, and they saw some of the bad things that were kind of going on that were happening with them, and they just answered back and said, well, here's some games, here's our strategy, here's all the things that Microsoft is doing that we don't want to do, and there you go. So it'll be interesting to see when and if Microsoft has to back down at all or change. I mean, there's so much stuff in place, and they probably got agreements with publishers and all that. So I don't know, at least in the short term, that Microsoft is really going to be able to back down on some of this stuff. But I don't know. I mean, maybe eventually it'll be a case of, well, okay, we screwed up, or well, due to this reason, he'll probably come up with an excuse and just say, well, due to this reason, now we've decided to change our policy on this digital rights thing or whatever. And so who knows? That might be something that'll change, maybe not. Who knows? They can't change it immediately, otherwise, like I said, they'll probably just, it'll help them, but at the same time, the gamers will just basically rebel and saying, see, we told you were screwed up. We told you were wrong. Honestly, the one thing that I can see happening that I really wouldn't be surprised at all is last year when Sony's PSN network went down for about a month right around E3 because Sony was doing some stuff, and that I forget even what originally caused it, but Anonymous went after the PS3, and like I said, their network was down forever. And I really have a sneaking feeling that it really wouldn't surprise me if Anonymous or another group just completely, totally went after Microsoft because they're doing all this sort of, draconian DRM business, and really, I've heard a lot of people say that they're just going a little bit too overboard as far as, telling the gamers what they can and can't do with their physical copy of games. I mean, Digital games regardless, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, that's just going to be the way it is, and that's what it's eventually going to move to. But when you have that physical element to it, when you have the disc and you have the physical copy, like I said, there's just a lot of people that really hold on to that, and they have certain expectations that are going to be that they want, and that's kind of what Microsoft is really going to be fighting. The one little tidbit that they really that Sony really glazed over, I did catch it actually, and I'm glad I did. But then I actually heard it confirmed afterward just to make sure. Is that one of the changes that they are making is with their PlayStation Plus service, which I did actually become a member of that because they're doing some great things as far as they're offering free games every month. Actually, there's like a free game usually every week now because they have such a catalog for the PS3 and stuff. Now they can do that. But you get a free game as long as you're a member. You can play it as much as you want. You get discounts on new games and DLC and PlayStation Classics and all that kind of stuff. So you get some really kind of nice perks. Really kind of actually impressed with that. Well, they're carrying that over, so if you already have a PlayStation Plus membership, it's going to work with your PlayStation 3, it's going to work with your Vita, it's going to work with your PS4. And that was great. Really glad to hear that. And they're actually offering some free games at launch for PlayStation Plus members, which, all right, great. Sounds great to me. The one thing that they did kind of slip in there, and they just kind of, I don't know if people just didn't notice it because they were really hopped up on, hey, we're not going to be DRM stuff. All right, great, yay. But what they did say is that now, in order to play online games, just like Xbox Live works now, if you're going to have a PlayStation Plus account in order to play multiplayer games online. You'll still be able to access the store. You'll still be able to watch, movies and actually watch Netflix, things like that. You'll be able to do all of that just fine without a Plus account. But they actually are going to be, with the PS4, starting to charge for, if you want to play online multiplayer games, just like Xbox Live works now, you're going to have to be a member, which, if it helps them improve their server infrastructure and, provide more of a consistent experience, since now they really are going after the gamers and not focusing quite as much on the whole, we have to be everything to everyone in the living room. If they are taking more of this gamer-centric approach, I've paid for Xbox Live for the last few years, even though I don't necessarily use it as much. I'm actually thinking about discontinuing my gold membership when it expires here, actually in very soon. But I'm thinking about canceling it. But the PlayStation Plus, with all the perks you get and everything like that, I really don't mind having to subscribe, because now, okay, you're going to get online multiplayer gaming. You're going to get, like I said, maybe hopefully a better network infrastructure. You're going to get your free games. You're going to get your game discounts. Early beta access to some things. So there's some nice little perks to that. And if that's what they're going to do and it's not ridiculously expensive, I can live with that. I mean, they did sneak it in hoping maybe that people wouldn't notice with all the other, good news there. And when people do kind of figure it out, there may be a little backlash on that. But personally, myself, I don't have much of a problem with that. That I can live with. That seems fine. So, wow, yeah, that was Monday. I mean, all those press conferences. Then you had Apple, WWDC, since that was actually a little bit more work-related for me, technology, and we have to kind of pay attention to all this sort of stuff. I did check into that at work and followed that a little bit more closely. And it could be some interesting stuff there. The Mac stuff I don't really care about as much. They announced some new MacBook Airs and, a little bit of boost in, your processors and a few spec boosts there. But I'm not a huge Mac guy. I have my MacBook Pro at work, that that it's Works machine, but that I use. But I'm more of a PC guy, and that's whatever. They announced a new Mac Pro for the real professionals, and this does sound like a really beastly machine. It does sound pretty crazy. I mean, they went on and on for quite a few minutes there just talking about all the specs for it. I mean, it was actually pretty nuts. It's got this kind of new like cylinder style tower, bunch of FireWire and some USB 3 ports on there, and processors, and I forget God knows how much RAM in it. And but the cool part that I thought was crazy is they got this video card setup that's got, by default, you can hook up, it supports 4K TV, so 4K monitors, it'll support that. But with the default setup, you can actually hook up, 3 4K monitors if you really wanted to this beast. And it's like, holy crap, that's insane. But what's also going to be insane? The price is going to be brutal. Obviously they didn't announce a price for it yet, but man, even at the base configuration, I'll bet you that thing is at least $5,000 or better, just in its base configuration, because Apple stuff is marked up or it's expensive to begin with, and then you put all this other crazy decent tech into it, and then you put this whole video stuff in there. Yeah, that's probably going to be just wicked expensive. But like I said, if you get Windows on there, that might actually make one hell of a gaming machine. What I was actually more curious about was their two different things that they announced, that they did actually announce. First, they announced their what is it? It's like iTunes Radio or something like that, something radio. But basically, their streaming music service, and if basically it's free, it will be free when it comes out later this year. Free for everybody with ads. And then if you have this iTunes Match service, which I don't fully understand because I don't use iTunes. Like I said, I try to avoid iTunes sort of like the plague because I'm just not a fan. But if you're an iTunes Match subscriber, which I don't think is all that much, I think it's like $20 a year, then you get ad-free for that year. And it seems kind of just like another Spotify, Pandora, Slacker sort of thing. So, okay, yeah, not bad. But what I was really curious about was the iOS 7 that's going to be coming out later this year. There were people saying that they're going to, basically kind of redo it. It's going to have a new look. Maybe it's going to have some new stuff in there, change the way how some of it works. Which they didn't go into. They showed like an overview of a lot of different things, but there are some stuff that I'm really still curious about that I don't know. Some people thought, well, maybe you will be able to actually put third-party keyboards in there. So if I wanted to use, let's say, Flexi, maybe I would be able to do that. But that I really don't know. They didn't say anything about that kind of stuff yet. But I have to say, what was there, it looked pretty good. Definitely a new look, kind of a flatter look. Some new gestures for, like moving around, going between apps. Notification center is still there, but then they have another one, I think they call it Control Center, where you swipe up from the bottom of the screen, and then you can quickly, hurrah, finally, change some settings that we really should have been able to do ages ago, like maybe turn your Wi-Fi on and off, or flight mode, or Bluetooth, or things like that. So very pleased to finally hear that making it to there. Siri's been improved. I guess they're adding a better voice to it. There's a male and a female voice that they briefly, they had them say, a couple brief phrases, and from what I've heard, it sounded pretty good. What I'm curious about is, people confuse Siri for voiceover because they use the same Samantha or Tom voice, mainly Samantha, but what I wonder is if they're using that in their current iOS, I wonder if voiceover is actually going to get to use these better voices. So I'm kind of hoping that they do, and I'm hoping that sometime soon through WWDC or through AppleVis or through some other accessibility news blog or podcast or something, I'm hoping that we hear some news on that. Like I said, I wouldn't mind. I've gotten to Samantha on the iPhone doesn't bother me. I mean, like on the Victor Reader stream, it's horribly compressed, so I don't really enjoy that experience at all. But actually on the iPhone or any iOS device, I don't mind Samantha there. She's not actually that bad. But I'd be open to hopefully some more natural sounding, better voices. I'd be okay with that. I do hope that they, if they do that, I kind of hope that they at least keep Samantha around as an option. So if okay, maybe, some people, depending on how fluidly it talks at higher speeds, if we want to go back to Samantha or whatever, maybe we can. But I'm kind of hoping that they do that. Just some kind of, they're redesigning Mail, they're redesigning the calendar, they're redesigning a bunch of little core apps, but it's still seeming to be where, the whole interface is still pretty much the same. It looks different, but their goal is that they want to make it, new, but they want to make it instantly familiar, so you can just pop right in and, do that kind of stuff. So, there were a few other tidbits here and there, but those are the major ones that I kind of remember. And, I was doing some other stuff at work as well while I was listening to that, so I wasn't really looking at it too close visually. So I wasn't able to really see, how things looked too much visually. But, like I said, from what it sounded like, things will be interesting to see anyway. Developers are getting access to it right away, so they're being able to start to play with it right now. We're going to get it this fall, probably when they're going to announce a new iPhone and or an iPad or iPad mini. So my guess would be around September, October is when you're maybe going to see that. So, all in all, not too bad. There were a few other announcements there. They do have a nice summary write-up on AppleVis, AppleVis.com again. They do have a nice write-up there, just kind of a bullet-pointed list of all the announcements at WWDC, their little press briefing, keynote conference, or keynote presentation. To wrap things up, I know this video is getting really long, but like I said, it's just been a sheer crazy week, and I will kind of write up probably a series of posts on the blog once E3 is actually done and I actually can kind of consume all the information and kind of make sense of more of it and watch some of these movies and trailers and things like that. But, to wrap things up, I mean, Nintendo had their little Nintendo Direct. They didn't have a full press conference like they usually do. They were doing this Nintendo Direct spiel this morning, which I didn't watch live. I just kind of read about it later because, again, I was working. So, I looked at some of the news and a couple little videos and stuff. It really pains me to say this, being such a longtime Nintendo fan, but really from the Wii on, yeah, there was a few Wii games that I really like. No More Heroes being one of the main ones, and there's been a few others, but really, I'm not liking Nintendo's stuff as much as I used to. I mean, their games are still really good, and they do have some really great ideas from time to time. But basically, from what I got out of it is 3DS-wise, there's going to be some more stuff for that. The main thing that I remember them talking about is, we're going to have the new Mickey Mouse thing, the kind of Castle of Illusion thing that people are really hyped about. But the main thing that I'm actually interested in is kind of this Link to the Past 2D overhead kind of sequel for the 3DS. That actually looks really good. They said it's going to, you can do the 3D stuff if you want to, but it's also going to run at 60 frames per second. So what I've seen of the game looks pretty darn nice. So, I'm pretty pumped about that. That may be a 3DS game that I'm interested in. not too much really memorable. At least, like I said, I don't know all the announcements, but out of what I've seen, that's what stood out. The Wii U, they showed a new Smash Brothers trailer that's gonna, Smash Brothers is gonna come out next year. There's like a Mario 3D World. Oh, there's a new Yoshi's Island style game on the 3DS too, which may be pretty cool. Although I was terrible at the first Yoshi's Island, so... And that damn crying baby Mario. Oh, God, he got obnoxious. But anyone who's played that game will know exactly what I'm talking about. But, they had Mario 3D Land on the 3DS, and now they're going Mario 3D World, so, that might be interesting. Smash Brothers, obviously. They're doing a Mario Kart for next spring. I don't think I heard anything about a Metroid. I know they're doing the Wind Waker remake, is going to be out in October. Which, if I had a Wii U, I would probably get just because an HD version. I mean, Wind Waker was beautiful to begin with. I actually really got to I really love the cel-shaded style for that game. So, I may look into that if I had a Wii U, but it's not a system seller per se. New Donkey Kong game. Donkey Kong... Frozen something. I forget the name of it, but the new Donkey Kong, 2D Donkey Kong game, which, okay, cool. But, really the thing is, Animal Crossing just came out for the 3DS, and I played the GameCube version, never really got into it, and it just, from what I can tell and what everyone else says, that game really just has not changed all that much in all the versions that it's done. We're up to Mario Kart 8. I love me some Mario Kart, but even that, the last couple, like the 3DS version, I loved the GBA version. I played the heck out of that. The GBA version, but the DS version I really, really loved. That was a fantastic game. That one was one of my favorites. But the 3DS one, Mario Kart 7, I like it, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it's just not doing it for me as much as some of the older ones do. Mario Kart 64 and the DS version, I think, are my favorite Mario Karts. And, they've done how many new Super Mario Brothers games? They had the DS one, the 3DS one, the Wii U one. I may have even been missing one more here and there, so it's just... There's a lot of stuff that's just, okay, we're hammering out all these games. Pikmin, I guess, we already knew about that, but Pikmin is coming out. Hey, sheep, what the heck are you doing out? But it's just... I may change my mind eventually. Just like any console, it'll be cheaper down the line, and by then there'll be enough exclusive games for it that, I'll probably get a Wii U eventually. But, I don't have glass in these. I should really put some glass in there. How did I overlook that? But, Nintendo stuff, I'm just... Yeah, it's another Mario. It's another Smash Brothers. It's another Mario Kart. Pokemon, I really could care less. Pokemon, I just do not care at all. I'm sure there'll be more, and like I said, I will write up more about it once I actually read some of the stuff that wasn't talked about at all these press conferences and figure out what is going to be multi-console and when and what and all that business. I'm sure there's more that I don't know about or that I just forgot about or what have you, but Nintendo, their Wii U is already struggling, and, third-party support, probably getting more of it, but not stellar. So I'm not sure that they did a lot, unless I'm really missing a lot of announcements. There's not a lot here to really go, yes, I really should have that console by the end of this year for this holiday season. It's really something I need to have. even a few of their biggest games, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, they're not coming out until next year. So you still have got a long way to wait. I just don't know. I will hopefully be able to have a few more tidbits to talk about in the blog post. Like I said, when I actually read more about everything and go through some stuff that I may have missed. But you know, I know the games are going to be good because Nintendo does make solid games, but I'm just not feeling it right now. Quite honestly, you know, to wrap things up here, I know, like I said, we're doing a super long video, but I figured I'd just do it in one shot here. But I think right now, as things stand, if I had to pick a console right now, it would be the PS4, hands down, because, like I said, I like their PlayStation Plus. I like their focus on the gamer. They're going to have some of this, all the movies and stuff like that. They're going to do Netflix, yada yada, music, whatever. They'll do all that stuff, but it really seems to be focused on games. They got some good indie support going. You know, maybe not as quite the strong lineup as first party as Microsoft has, but, you know, like I said, some of this disc-based shenanigans we're not going to have to deal with. You know, Sony just actually they've really, you know, I wasn't a fan in the start of the PS3 generation just because they were really arrogant after their PS2 success, and they kind of really made some missteps there. But now they're, you know, I think they've been humbled a little bit, and being behind the 360 for so long. Come on, let me through the damn door. There we go. You know, I mean, things could turn around and they could blow it too, but at least right now the impression that I'm getting is that they're actually doing very well. They're, you know, coming out, they're saying the right things to get people's attention, to get the core gamers' attention. I really hope that they deliver on some of their, you know, media streaming stuff. Their game sharing, I hope I can record longer videos and, like I said, just save them and actually be able to shoot them up to YouTube and whatnot, not just their Ustream service. You know, so hopefully we'll see how that goes. But, you know, all this stuff, I hope that it's not just, oh, we're at the start of the generation, we're going to make all these crazy promises or all these crazy predictions of what our system's going to do over the next few years, and then just, okay, no, not so much. Because Sony has done that in the past, and all of them to some degree have done that in the past. So, as for consoles, yeah, I would probably go with the PS3. Right now, Microsoft, I really don't have. There's a couple games that look pretty cool, but it's not something that I really have to have. There's nothing really that jumps out at me that is exclusive, that's like, oh, I need this system, I have to play that game. So, Microsoft, meh. Sony I would go for, but unless even Sony just releases something that's totally killer that I don't know about or whatever that during launch, I'm probably not going to get a PS4 at launch either, because I have plenty to play on the PS3, the 360, and good lord, my Steam library. I've got tons of stuff on Steam, and a lot of the multi-platform titles are going to come to PC either at the same time or probably shortly thereafter. So, there is that. If anything, maybe this year or next year, I may not necessarily look into a new gaming system, but what I might look into is a new video card for my computer. Or a new computer. I mean, I do have a Core i7. I think it is one of the older Core i7s. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the clock speed is on it. But I've got a really good rig here. And if I just upgrade, right now I'm running a GeForce GTX 470, which is a pretty darn good card and a pretty effective card, and works really great for all the current generation games. But I have a sneaking feeling that once everything is developed for the new systems that are coming out, the PS4 and the Xbox One, yeah, we're gonna definitely see a jump in quality over what we've got for the even for the PC versions of current gen games right now. So I'm sort of thinking that at some point here, my games are, I'm going to have to start running things on medium to low. Medium, a lot of times I can probably deal with. When I got to start running things on low and it still starts to chug, yeah, we're going to have to look into a better video card. So I'm guessing within the next year or so there will be that. I'm going to have to look at either getting a new computer or getting a new video card or something. So we'll decide that eventually. But that is sort of my wrap up for my impressions over the last especially day or so with all these press conferences and E3 and Apple shenanigans. I think there's actually a lot to look forward to. I think, yeah, the graphics are nice, but I'm glad they're trying to do, not just open world stuff, even though that seems to be a real trend. But, I'm hoping that they really try to advance gameplay in different areas, not just shoot, drive, shoot. But just trying to think of different ways to add new gameplay experiences. I hope they do that. My one worry, a couple worries is, there's still the whole focus on this Connect business for Microsoft, and I haven't heard much of anything about Move for the PS4, but there's still the motion gaming thing, accessibility-wise, but the other thing is that the graphic fidelity, even on current generation games, there are some games that just look so good that, the graphic fidelity, yes, it looks amazing, but when it actually comes to playing the game, and let's say you're playing a first-person shooter, let's say, there are times where it can be really hard to pick out the people, pick out your teammates from your enemies, or just pick people out in general, or figure out where you're supposed to go, because everything looks so darn similar and, blends in with the graphic fidelity getting to these crazy levels. That could be a potential thing we're going to have to watch, is how easy is it going to be to continually play some of these games. So, so far I don't do too bad. Yeah, there'll be games where I'll crank the difficulty down to, normal or easy. I don't play things on hard all that often. But it's not, it's more for accessibility reasons, more for my, being able to see it and visually react to it in a more, in a better, in an easier fashion, that I do that. I do like a challenge, but I also like to be able to see what I'm doing and know that it's not, okay, the game is being cheap, or I'm just not seeing it well enough, so by the time I see something, I'm dead. So there is that. But, that could be another thing to potentially watch if you're a visually impaired gamer. But with that, I've kind of done another server walkthrough of kind of, not every building, but I've kind of walked through all the major areas of this server in the time that I've done this whole spiel. But hopefully that gives you some of my, gives you some impressions, or gives you an idea of what was going on at this E3 2013 so far, just in the press briefings or press conferences alone. Kind of get my thoughts on it and where I might go as far as covering things on my blog and the YouTube channel here at Illegally Cited. Just give you that kind of an idea. So, with that, I will just say it's always great to get more subscribers and stuff like that. So if you're watching this, you like it, go ahead, thumb up and subscribe, and, tell other people you think might like this, and, get them to subscribe, whatever. Any much appreciated. Any feedback is appreciated. Hope you enjoyed it. With that, I will stop this really, really long video, and I will talk to you guys next time.